Let's get on it.
Let's get on it. We are talking about mission work, helping the poor, and taking selfies. Listen, when you're going to help the poor, leave the camera at home. So, in looking at Scripture, and right here at the end of summer for us, first day of fall was yesterday, and in the summer, everybody goes on their little short-term mission trips and post a bunch of pictures of them surrounded by brown kids in third world countries.
Yeah.
And look what I did. Check me out. How awesome. But when you look at Scripture,
I got it pulled up. Matthew 6.
you want to read it?
Yeah.
First 3 verses?
It says, watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing.
Go ahead and read verse 4 to you, just for funsies.
Well, you go ahead, because that's all I got pulled
so
up.
that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. I told you, that's my fault. I told you first 3 verses, but first 4 was where we were going. So the idea there is, once you have taken the picture of you giving the sandwich to the homeless guy and posted it and gotten all those likes, that's your reward. Like, that's it. That's
what you're getting out of it.
That's
right
it. That's
there.
the entire reward. So,
and I've seen this. Like, I've seen people I respect do this.
Yeah. So somebody pitched this to me not long ago because they had seen a picture like that. It was some group that went out and did something for some people who couldn't do it for themselves, and was like, imagine you're the other guy. Be the poor guy, be the homeless guy, be the single mom, the whatever you're going to help. And this person says, here's a week's worth of groceries for your family, or here's your rent money, or whatever.
And let's go ahead and point out, when somebody does that for you, as awesome as it is, when you're the recipient, you feel like relieved that you're getting something for your family,
right?
But it's very embarrassing.
It is, and that's kind of where I was going. So you have that feeling, and you're like, somebody had to help me do this, and like, I'm supposed to be a grown adult that can take care of my own things, and now you're like, let's take a picture. Like, can you say no? You can't say no. Like, no, I don't want to take a picture. Like, you just helped me and fed my kids or whatever. So now I can't say, no, get your camera out here. Okay, let's take a picture.
They feel obligated to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like I'm saying, put yourself in the other person's shoes, in that scenario. And I don't know that I ever really had before. Like, I was aware of this Scripture passage that we just read, but like, to actually put myself in those shoes and go, I need some help, and these people are going to do it. But man, I really don't want to take this picture, because then everybody knows I couldn't do it on my own. I had to get help from this church that came across the country to come, feed my kids, or maybe not across the country. Either way, you kind of get the gist of things.
Yeah, yeah.
But we see it all the time.
We do. We see it a lot, and they're going to say, because I kind of feel like it falls under the whole when people take pictures in church and they're all,
fight me.
You know what I mean? And
fight me in the street.
They're going to use that. They're going to say, their argument for it is going to be, well, we just want to show how beautiful it is at our church, and people looking online can get a feel of the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And I'm all like, that's not the way people are supposed to be being brought into the church anyway, to start with.
Right.
And secondly, like, how authentic is it if you got somebody running around snapping pictures? How authentic is your giving if the first thing you think of as you're giving them the whatever is, let me get the picture?
Well, who are you giving for at that point? Who is the good deed for? So certainly it's for the less fortunate person, the needy person, whatever. But if you're doing it for the clicks, is it for God or is it for you? And if it's for you, then you are your God. You've created a God in your own image that you have chosen to worship.
Well, they're going to say, we want people to see what the church is doing for
Yeah,
people.
yeah. And there's a way to do that. So you take a picture of the truck with all the stuff in it, and we're going to this place to do this thing, and then you take a picture of the empty truck. You know, like this is what we did today.
A little before and after action.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you can see, like, this is what God did. God gave us all this stuff to give away to these people, and then he brought the people in that we could give it to. So it's, you know, God's working on both ends of things. But don't drag those poor people in front of your camera and go, hey, you got to take a picture with me. Okay.
Now, I recall Jesus performing a miracle and telling them to keep their mouth shut about it.
Right? Yeah, let's just not talk about it. If you
Yeah.
just don't, and then what they do, they did it anyway. But that was the idea. Don't just go running your mouth and look how awesome. Look at my friend, right? My friend did these miracles, so everybody look at my friend. Like, don't even do that, you know. And if there's going to be a picture of you, I don't know, unless you tell people don't take pictures of me doing mission work. Like there might be a picture of you doing that. If somebody else takes a picture, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But not like, let's bring a photographer on our mission trip to document everything and, you know, like whatever.
You know, you ever wondered why we keep going to the same places on mission trips? This is going to take like a little dog leg off
Do
for
it,
just
yeah.
a second. But it's also, I'll try to bring this around real quick. You know why we have to continuously build schools and churches in Haiti and stuff like that? Because the missionaries go down there and they build it, and then when they leave, the wild people from the jungle come in and ravage the materials and take it back and build them a little hut with it.
Yeah.
So then people are constantly having to go back and rebuild these things. Well, see, the people that they are sending over here right now, it's not the ones that are having their buildings tore apart. It's the ones tearing apart the buildings.
Tearing apart the buildings.
But anyway, I don't know why I felt like I had to bring that up. But the thing is, I was thinking, because every time I see somebody go to one of these places on one of these mission trips, it looks more like a tropical vacation to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what me and Tango were talking about earlier. I was talking about it. Tango was listening. I was reminding him of a time way back when he and I used to go to church together. And there was a person who was like, hey, I'm going on this mission trip to China, Japan. I think it was Japan. Had to be Japan. They were trying to raise all this money to go on this mission trip. They came before the church, and they're like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and blah, blah, blah. We're going to share the gospel. Okay, cool. Then you go on your mission trip, and then you come back, and you get up in front of the church, and you talk about all the stuff you did.
Or report from the trip.
And you show your pictures. So we're scrolling. We're scrolling through these pictures, and here we are at Disney World.
There are lost souls at Disney World.
I guess, are they in Space Mountain? I don't know.
They're there.
Yeah.
There's lost souls there.
And like, turns out Japan has Disney World too. I'm like,
come think about it. Disney World is the prime place to go do some missions. That is the epitome of
man, but
false
like,
idols.
You're talking about, I guess you'd have to sit next to somebody on the roller coaster and be like, all right, listen, I got 30 seconds while we ride this ride.
You understand this is all false idols and we're lifting something up above God by in here, right?
Right, yeah. Or maybe you just, for the 2 hours you're standing in line, maybe you're just beating over the head with Jesus, but probably not. That's probably not what's happening.
I'm going to try to get one of them rapid passes so I can get past all them folks and ride the ride.
Hang out all these poor people. I got mission money that I'm spending at Disney World. But that just rubbed me the wrong way. It just bothered me that we were like, people made sacrifices of their own money, you know, above and beyond what they would have normally given to the church, and they give this money over. And we got pictures at Disney World, not at like me out sharing the gospel even.
You know what kills me is people that go on these mission trips to other places. And I mean, like, I'm not trying to tear down what they're doing for the Lord or anything.
Yeah.
But what's the best way to put this? They are not a good person here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know them for real. You know them?
Right.
And they're like, not a real good person. But then you see them on their little mission trip.
Look at me doing this for Jesus.
They're holding some opposite colored little baby on their lap, and they're, you know, trying to look all sweet. And I'm all like, I'm pretty sure I've heard you say racial slurs before.
Yeah, well, that's what verse 2 there in Matthew 6 is warning about specifically. Sound no trumpet before you as the hypocrites do. You know, that's what that is. Like, those people are being the hypocrites. And if you're the one sounding the trumpet before you, then you're the hypocrite too.
Well, I think also the bad part about it is I'm guilty of it too. Mm-hmm. I am. I've done things and then not posted about them. Yeah. But then when you have your little conversation with your Christian buddies or whatever, and they bring up something, well, then you bring up something, and I'm all like, as soon as I tell the story, I feel like I just did away with that blessing, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with context, because we were talking last night about some mission work that I've done.
In West Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to say different state. But yeah, West Virginia. And I've talked about it before on here, but I don't know. If you're going to do that, it needs to be, hey, we should go back and help those people some more, or find some people like them, or send some money up there for the people that I know that can carry on the same work or whatever. So like there's a way you should share the need, right? If there's a need, an ongoing need, and just talk about it. But to be like, yeah, I went up there and I stood up in front of 1,000 people and got to share the gospel, and then we all took pictures together afterwards, and like I signed autographs, and they thought I gave this one little boy my sunglasses. Like, okay,
that's the superstar preacher man mentality.
Yeah, and then we're on camera right now doing this, but it's, I don't know. You would hear this in church, hopefully. So you don't. You know, no, you don't. You don't
because they're first of all, to do mission work, it costs money. Like you have to raise money to go do this. It's not the church paying for it.
What?
Ain't that crazy? Like all these people put in this tithe, and that's not one of the reasons for the tithe.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're going to send a bunch of people to go do this, but y'all got to pay some more. And it's all like, well, shouldn't we be putting money aside for this all year?
Yeah.
Like all year we should be putting money aside, and we're going to send X amount of people this time of year to this place to do this thing. We need this much money. Let's allocate the tithe to that. The tithe don't have to go to change the carpet from red to green.
Right. And we know a pastor that used to beat that drum, and they used to throw a wet blanket on his fire every time we brought it up. He's like, hey, why don't we have a mission fund?
Yeah.
And it ain't got to be $1 million because we got other bills to pay, but we can put a couple $100 together.
Well, your mission fund don't have to be that much, because your mission fund doesn't have to be in another state or country.
Right. It can be across the street in the trailer park, right across the street from your church. Yeah. So, you don't have to drive 1,000,000 miles or fly around the world or anything like that. So have something in there. And they would say, well, we got, other stuff. Well, what other stuff is there?
Salaries.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, but you look in the book of James, and pure and undefiled religion is defined as visiting orphans and widows and taking care of those people.
But no, you got to get them to come to church on Sunday, though.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, it might, but
that's our Western church culture.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I look at, speaking of, you talk about Western culture and even America versus other places, and I think about people like Craig McClure, who's been on the podcast before. He's a missionary in a different place. It's an American territory. It's not an American territory. Where is he? He's in the Dominican Republic. But we don't see pictures of him out there, doing missionary stuff. He just does the work.
Yeah, well, I know somebody that does that too, and they're in dangerous places, and they post pictures, but it's not like that.
Right.
Like, the guy's heart. This dude's in a dangerous place too.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably more dangerous for him to even post these pictures.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's been going to places where they, unalive Christians.
Yeah.
But it's not that, hey, look, I'm feeding this orphan a glass of milk.
Right. It's hey, could you send me a few bucks so I can feed this orphan a glass of milk? Right, yeah. So there's a way to do it, and you can get the word out, and spread the message. And there are this people here that you've never heard of before that need your help. David Ogden was on and was talking about the car people in India, and I never would have heard of them had not David Ogden come on my podcast and told me all about them and posted stuff about them on his socials. but you don't see pictures of him going, hey, look at me and this Indian guy. We're taking pictures. Everest behind us, and we're together. I mean, there's a picture of him and Everest, but it's not like that typical, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd take a picture in front of Everest too, I think, but it's not about us at all.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah. And if it is, then you're one of these hypocrites, and you are that God that you've created in your own image and all that good stuff, and it just shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be. I think we've all been guilty of it at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
The point is to learn and move past it and correct our wrongs.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. I always kind of want to take these kind of conversations to the prosperity gospel that we always love to bash here,
right?
Because it's kind of the same thing there, like this flaunting your riches, like your what's the guy in Louisiana or whatever,
Jesse Duplantis.
Yeah, Jesse Duplantis, like getting up there and just blasting about how God is giving him all this money and these planes and just boasting and blowing it out.
He's got the biggest house in Louisiana. Have you heard?
Biggest house in Louisiana, and I'm like, man, like, I just cannot find anywhere in Scripture that tells me that's the life that Jesus promised me.
Man, yeah, yeah.
Or even said that I'm supposed to try to live.
Right.
It actually warns me against being rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough to be rich. It should be.
Yeah, it's easier to fit. I was just having this conversation with my daughter the other day on our way to school, and I'm like, what the word says, it's easier to fit a camel through the eye of a needle than to get into the kingdom of heaven as a rich person, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you realize how impossible that is?
Yeah,
you would literally
an
have
actual camel.
An actual camel. You would literally have to be God and break that camel down to a molecular structure and shoot it through that hole and rebuild it on the other side.
Yeah.
That's
and
how
God,
impossible it is.
Right. It's impossible. God can do that, and that's fine. It's impossible for us, for sure.
I'm not saying there's not going to be rich people in heaven, but I'm saying he's saying that's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
He's telling us it's one of the hardest things you can do, but yet we continue to run after it and chase after it.
Yeah.
And then when they get it, well, I've got it in the name of God. I got to show it off.
My second airplane, yeah. And then you call them on it, and then
I'm the devil.
They call you a demon.
Then I'm the demon. I'm the devil.
Yeah. I'm not a demon. You're not a demon. We're not the devil. We just don't have a Gulfstream.
Well, I crave a simpler, normal life.
Yeah.
I don't want to be big and whatever. You know what I mean? It'd be nice to reach more people and do our thing and everything, but that's not why we do this.
Right.
6 people might listen. 1,000 people might listen.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't lose sleep at night over the numbers.
I do. I'm just playing. I don't really. I stopped because it drove me crazy. But yeah, no, that's not why you do it. It's not why you're the pastor of a church. It's not why you go on a mission trip. It's not why you help the old lady across town. Like, it shouldn't be. It should be about God and the message and doing the things that we're told to do in Scripture. Which
was it you that sent me the video today? Somebody sent it to me. I can't remember. Anyway, I saw a video today that said, this is where you'll find out how many of your church staff is really on board with doing the church thing for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. Tell your pastor he has to take 1 year unpaid, but keep doing the job.
Ooh.
And then after 1 year, his pay will pick back up again. If he leaves, his heart wasn't never in it for the right reasons. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think the pastor ought to get paid, because the Bible talks about not muzzling the ox while he's treading his grain. Like, you can't expect the guy to give up everything else and work for free for a year. But a particular pastor, so if you were to say like an Osteen, who is going to be fine without money for a year.
He could take another paycheck for the rest of his life.
Right, and he'd be fine. So a guy like that, that's where you would find out who's in it for the money. Now, if you could say, we're not going to pay you for a year, we'll meet all your needs. You won't need anything. Maybe that's, I don't know. But I heard a guy say one time, and I was an unpaid, bivocational, unpaid pastor for 3 years. So I get it, like all the work that goes into that and to not be paid for it. And that's not why you do it. But at the same time, you got to eat. You got bills to pay. But but who is out there willing to do that and go without, anything? So if you can meet the need, maybe you say after that 1 year, we'll pay you 2 years at the same time. So we saved your money for you, whatever, but to not give them a check for a whole year, that's tough.
I think the point for me would be if you were staying small, like it was supposed to be, then that's more plausible.
Yeah.
Because then the pastor can have a job. You had a job the whole time you were a pastor,
right.
A full-time job.
I remember where I was going a second ago. Somebody talked about the amount of dedication of your pastor, right? And him having a job or not having a job, and when should you pay a full-time pastor as opposed to keeping a bivocational guy? Well, like how much time do you want him spending in the Word and preparing for Sunday? Like the pastor's number one job is to get ready for Sunday and to preach a sound doctrinal sermon. And then all the other stuff that happens Monday through Saturday is secondary stuff. And that's hard to hear for a lot of people because they won't have the pastor on speed dial and their beck and call or whatever. But like, do you want him to have to do 8 hours a day of a day job and 4, 6, 8 other hours a day getting ready for a sermon on Sunday?
Well, if you expect him to be there every time there's a problem with the flock, whether a death in the family or something like that. If they expect that, then I would say, yes, you need a full-time paid pastor. Right. If you all have this understanding of, hey, we're all out here working, trying to make this thing go, but we come together and we're a church family, but we all have our lives and bills to pay, then I feel like that could work too. Yeah.
Well, your salary shouldn't be a burden on your church.
No.
It just shouldn't be.
And I mean, if you're that small, say 50 people church on a normal, you're probably not bringing in enough money to, not if you actually have a brick and mortar building that meets and yada yada. Yeah. You're not going to keep all that up and pay a guy a full-time salary off a church that small.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
But that's the kind of churches I grew up in, though. Yeah. Like everybody in the church took turns keeping up the church and the property.
Yeah, it's your turn to cut the grass or whatever.
Or my turn to clean the bathrooms or whatever. Yeah. But there was also different preachers that would rotate out, but there was a pastor that oversaw everything. Right. But he also worked 50, 60 hours a week in a machine shop. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was, while I don't agree with everything I learned in that church, seeing that and seeing how it worked and how well it worked, and it's an old school mountain church, so they've been doing it like that since
the way it's always been,
probably a couple hundred years, and I'm like, man, they got that right. They got that right. I feel.
Well, I think about my buddy Adam Colston, the pastor at We the Church, who runs a barbershop, and he's
full-time business owner.
A full-time business owner. Adam works 3 days a week at the barbershop, but he pulls 12-hour days. So that's his income. The church pays him, I think, some, but it's not
a full-time salary.
It's not a full-time salary. But he also knows he makes enough at the barbershop that it would be a problem for his church to have to pay him. And there were things, they do so much. They give so much away to their members. They help out the people who need it, the orphans and the widows like we were talking about. They do all that stuff, and he knows if they had to replace his barbershop salary from that same money, they couldn't do all those things. And he doesn't want that for his church.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, it's super admirable, and I love that about him.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah. But that's the mindset of the pastor, right? And you don't want there are things that my church can't do if I want to get paid this month. That's tough. That's tough. I can tell you can be the pastor of a church and have a job. You can do it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've developed my feelings and thoughts and beliefs on this just over my life, and I'm sure it's all a reflection of how I was raised and yada yada. Right. But yes, men work. If you don't work, you don't eat. Yeah. Scripture says that too.
Oh, it says that. It says you got to take care of your family, or you're worse than a tax collector. Yeah.
Yeah, and the lazy go hungry, and I can't remember what word they call it, but the other person, they get to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just when you see people that are like these rock star looking wannabe pastors and stuff, and it's like the dudes never get their hands dirty, and like I don't respect that, dude. I don't know why. Maybe that's a bad part of my personality, but I'm like, man, you gotta toughen up, man. You gotta get out and do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know this is a fat man saying this, but I do stuff.
I don't know. There's just that balance, like you talked about. Well, how available do you want your pastor to be? How much time do you want him spending in the Word? How critical are you of him anyway? There's a lot of unwarranted criticism of pastors just by people in their own church, which is tough. That guy's doing the best he can, hopefully. Especially these bivocational guys. Like, those dudes aren't in it for the money. Like, they're just not. There's no way to spin that and go, well, my church pays me $400 a month, and I also have a 55-hour-a-week job that I work or whatever. Like, that guy ain't in it for the money.
Yeah, and if that's the situation, then the congregation just has to know, if something happens lunchtime on a Tuesday, he may not be able to drop what he's doing and come help.
Yeah.
So you might have to wait till he gets off work.
Yeah, yeah.
But guess what? That's just the way the world works, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is. But, I mean, I don't know. We talk about the church and the size of the church and who can afford this and that. And I don't feel like we ought to have churches with 5,000 people in them.
I don't either.
There just shouldn't be that. I mean, you come together. And Jesus preached to those numbers of people, but it wasn't like, let's have this big a church and stay this same number and size together all the time every Sunday. Like, no, you got to plant other churches. You have 5,000 people. That should, you could have at least 100 churches out of that, if not more.
I mean, we have to understand people are people. People are going to mess up regardless. Big church, little church, whatever.
Right.
But Scripture gives us warnings about certain things.
Yeah.
Mega church obviously turns into a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just a holy wannabe Walmart is what you are. People are coming in and getting their Sam's value Christianity.
Yeah.
You know, it's all cool on the surface. Makes me feel good. God wants me to be rich, so it's going to happen.
Checking the box.
Check off the box for the week, and then we leave. But, like, how many people did you really talk to? How many people do you really know that you're sitting around in a church that big?
Yeah. The people that you can, could reach out and touch.
That's about if y'all all sit in the same place every week.
Every Sunday, yeah.
So it's like going to a football stadium every week, getting that same chair.
Yeah. I know the guy that bought season tickets next to me, yeah.
Maybe you can buy season tickets to Joel Osteen's church and get, box seats or something.
Is there, club-level seats?
Maybe you get, club-level box seating.
They got the little guy that comes around, takes your drink order.
Sorry.
It's all good. I do that. I hadn't done it in the last 2 episodes, but I'm pretty notorious for headbutting the microphone. Just compose yourself over there.
Okay. I guess I'll do this now. Hi.
We're back. We're good.
But yeah, I don't know. We kind of turned that conversation, kind of took a left turn.
Yeah, we did a little bit. That's all right. That's what we do here. We take left turns.
I feel like it's all relative, though.
It is. It is. It's still about the lights and the sound rather than the message. It's got to be about the message. Tango, you good, buddy? We're over here just destroying equipment.
No, you're all good. No, I was just noticing Chris.
Because I pulled it. I know I pulled it over at some point, and I'm all like, "Oh man, I gotta hide it again."
What do you got? The little
box here.
with
Yeah.
It was the movement of the helmet that showed it off.
Oh,
the helmet.
Oh, so
Pre-show
Danny did
stuff.
it, not me.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better about it
Oh,
now.
so this happened 20 minutes ago.
Okay, that's fine.
All my fault. It's always my fault.
This is the juicy stuff right here.
Yeah. But so here we are in our $1 million studio scolding you people for being out there taking selfies on mission trips. This is not a $1 million studio. It might be.
Tango needs a chime in button because I can see him when something comes to and he's like, wants to say something, but you're looking at me and you don't see him. And I'm all I'm trying to Jedi mind trick you into looking at him.
I know. I've always said he needs like a little light or something that pops on. And now he's not in my direct line. He used to sit this way, and now I'm not.
We got all those fancy lights in the $1 million studio. I can make one light up red or something. Bing.
Red light pop up over your head, and I go, "Oh, there's Tango. He needs to say something."
You just need to do something. You go, or something. Make some kind of noise.
A wiggle or I don't know. You got a candle going. I don't know.
Listen to me.
I
Do
do.
your Trump voice. Go listen to me. I got something to say.
Is that right to stand up and go listen to me? I've got something to say.
It depends what we're saying, I guess.
Depends on what you're going to say next, right?
Yeah, I think that would entirely make or break that situation.
Could be real good. Could be real bad.
Yeah.
But
Could just be some nonsense.
it could be. And a lot of times it is. It's nonsense. It's us taking pictures of ourselves on mission trips so we can get clicks on social media, making people think we're these godly people.
I feel bad. I mean, enough when I have done stuff in certain situations in town if people see me doing it. You know what I mean? And it's all like, well, they're seeing me doing it. Because, you know, I've done stuff before, and then when you walk away, somebody gives you that was very honorable. Like, shut up, man. I didn't do that for that.
Well, man, if you're dragging an old lady out of a fiery car crash, like, some people probably going to see it.
I mean, I ain't done that. I'm talking about like giving somebody $1 in front of Subway or something.
Either way, you know.
You turn around and there's somebody going, oh, you're so...
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, where were you at, homie? I could have saved that dollar. No, do the thing. I mean, it can't matter. It can't matter who's watching.
It shouldn't.
Like, you don't want to be over there shooting off Roman candles going, hey, everybody, look at me, you know, but it can't matter who sees it. We did a thing. Tango, did you go with us to Adairsville after those tornadoes in 2011?
I think so.
And they kept sticking cameras on our... 11 Alive was there, and they kept putting cameras on our face.
Yeah, I did a lot of cleanup at places like that.
Yeah, so we were like, hey, every time they do that, just start talking about Jesus, and they quit doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never ran into any news people.
Yeah, they were... We all met at like this central location, and while we were kind of grouping up and deciding where everybody was going to go, whatever, we were getting instructions and equipment and stuff like that, and the camera people were coming around trying to talk to everybody, and we were like, just give us a minute so we can get oriented here. And then once they kind of cut us loose, it just became understood among the 100 or so volunteers that were there that were like, hey, just start sharing the gospel live on TV if they're going to put a camera in your face.
And then they'll pack it up and leave.
Yeah, they kind of gave up, but God bless them. But we couldn't help that they were there and they put a camera in our face. It wasn't like,
they're there to report on tornado.
Yeah, we had no idea that there was going to be news people there.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't go for that, and hopefully nobody else did either. But, you know, you can, there's scenarios, I guess, where you can dodge a camera, which is essentially what we were doing.
Dodging
but,
it.
Yeah, just being like, hey,
I'd
right now.
probably just spill some nonsense until they left me alone.
Take your shirt off and just go.
You were smart about, like, just talk to him about Jesus.
Yeah,
I would have came up with some off-the-wall craziness.
Well, it was a bunch of youth from the church, like one or two other adults, and I was like, hey, guys, if they get in your face with the camera, just tell them about Jesus. And like, I didn't want, who knows what those kids would have said otherwise, but.
I know Tornado did this. It was a Sasquatch. I saw him. He had a backwards hat on.
Have you heard the bit? There's a bit that a comedian did about mission trips and about who goes on mission trips. And it's like this third world country, this little village. And
the most beautiful white people show up.
Right, yeah. Well, it's a bunch of middle school kids. So the church is in contact, and they're like, we're going to come down here and build you an orphanage. And they're like, that's great. When are the architects showing up? And they're like, nah.
You got these 12-year-olds.
Jamie and Steve are coming down there, and they're going to build you a place. I'm like, okay.
Seems to me like it's always the most attractive couples in the church that end up going to them. So it always ends up.
They're the most photogenic.
Yeah. They're all down there looking like Ken and Barbie with the people. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I don't ever see no fat people going on. You
got to send the folks that are going to look right when they hang a layer around their neck and some sunglasses and their
like I could go
Bermuda
to a
shorts.
Trip in Hawaii. I'd fit in there.
Man, somebody was talking to me about doing some mission work one time in a place called St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is like the far south end of the Caribbean. And they were like, hey, if you're going to serve God, it might as well be in a tropical paradise. Like,
I mean, he did build it. He made it.
Yeah, he made that place too.
Those people down there do need Jesus. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how it's like, yeah, let's go down there. And we got people hungry and homeless right here.
Yeah.
But our country won't allow us to build shelters in the middle of the woods, but we can go to other countries and just build whatever in the middle of the woods.
Super happy when you show up.
Yeah.
Build them a shelter in the middle of the woods with some middle school kids.
But if you try to build the homeless shelters here just to live in, they're like, no, you got to get
there's
permits,
codes.
You got to get it inspected. It's got to have electricity and water. And I'm like, man, y'all just make it to where you have to be able to live in something pretty nice.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
on the ground.
Yeah.
They don't allow for no really in between much.
Yeah.
People are living in tents now because you can't just build a shelter
Like
in
on
the
purpose.
woods.
Yeah. They're like, we'll just live in a tent. It's fine.
Which is probably way easier than building a shelter.
Super easy. Yeah.
But after you build your shelter, it's going to last a lot longer than a tent.
Yeah. In the
You're
short
gonna
term.
get like one good winter out of a tent, maybe.
Yeah. After it gets rained on 29 times and snowed on.
Yeah.
And out in the sun beating on it. Yeah. The life on a tent is limited.
One time, I can talk about this because it was a failed trying to do something for some people.
Run it.
But it was a few years ago. I might have told this story before, but we was getting a really, really, really cold snap.
Mm-hmm.
So me and a bunch of friends was all like, the homeless village over there off of, what's that over there? You know where Duffy's Deli is?
Central Plaza.
You go over there and there's like this rock
Used to be.
ravine.
They've kind of run all them out now.
Well,
Hobo Canyon is what they call it.
Hobo Canyon.
Yeah.
Went over there with a bunch of blankets and stuff, showed up, and they were all gone. They wiped them all out because they were having a bicycle race that weekend. Or like the next week. So the only protection in the area that these people had from the wind, and it was supposed to get down to like 5 or something.
Yeah, it was cold,
And
especially for Georgia.
And windy and all that. And they made these people move for a bicycle race. Crazy to me. Crazy.
Yeah.
Heartless. They made it illegal in Rome to be homeless.
Yeah, they just, I guess, have they passed the ordinance against, they
I
call
heard
it
that.
urban camping?
I heard that. Yeah. That's what I had heard.
There's got to be a middle ground on that where it's not like we're not pitching tents in random people's front yards.
Yeah, I don't want them pitching
But
tent
it's-
in my front yard, but
yeah.
we should have a place
At the
safe
same, yeah.
for them to do
well,
that.
the place that you were talking about, as long as the owner was cool with them being there or whoever owned it, like they weren't hurting anything being back there.
Yeah, and they're all afraid of the liability because with homelessness and all that stuff, they're
Right.
going to have people doing drugs and God knows what else.
Yeah.
But these people are going to be doing that no matter where they're at.
Right.
So
yeah.
if we could help them not die from freezing to death, maybe they'll survive the OD that night. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like we have no heart for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's just such a thin line. Wes Chafin talked about this when he was on. They do a lot of work with that community. It still goes back to orphans and widows. So you're looking at these orphans and you're looking at these widows and you're looking at these grown men, and the grown men have got to do better, or they just have to. So there's a line there where you're crossing. You know, you're going against Scripture if you're just helping some guy who could help himself. And it's not to say that you shouldn't ever help them. You should help them get back on their feet. So there's that. But you can't just be like, it's cool, grown man, stay homeless. You know, like whatever.
Well, I would say a majority of our homeless here are men.
Yeah,
Well,
I think so.
the only ones I see out begging are men.
There are a few, like having been on Broad Street the last couple years, there's a little bit of a mix. It's definitely male heavy.
I don't ever see the women out begging.
Yeah, there's a few that you would see around Broad Street, but not
Really?
Yeah, but not compared to the number of men that you see out. But you know, we closed all of our mental health facilities and cut all that funding.
You know, when we started getting way more homeless people in Rome, when Serpent Foot disappeared.
Is that right?
I don't know. It seems to me like she used to keep them cleaned out. I don't know if she's even still around anymore.
I don't know if she is or not, but she lived in a tent where they built the forum. When they leveled that lot, she just popped up there and they had to like run her off.
She has a name this long.
Yeah, it's
her legal name.
Her name used to be Ann Otwell, and then she started going by Serpent Foot.
We need to do a story on this woman. I've got some stories I've heard that are crazy.
I met her a couple times. She's something else.
Yeah.
God bless her. We got on Serpent Foot, and this is where we are now.
What's funny is we've had this conversation before.
Oh,
Have we?
really?
I think it was a me and Danny conversation at one point.
I've probably brought her up too. If we
Maybe
talked
so.
about local homeless and stuff,
Yeah.
I'm sure I've probably brought her up.
because it was a ridiculously long name that we talked about.
Yeah, there's like 80 letters in her name or something.
Non-foot, all foot, 69 mouth, tail, solids, liquid gases, animal, vegetable, and mineral, all predators and prey that consume and move with feet, fins, wings, wheels, canes, roots, limbs, vines, landscape, dust, wind, water, fire, ice, gravity, vacuum, black holes, going over, under, and through our greater self, habitat, the cosmos of which we are but part, and where all life feeds upon other life, from the smallest atoms of bacteria to the great black holes and dog eat dog and last suppers, where we are what we eat or consume, and each lives on in the other. Infinity Serpentfoot.
That was all her legal name.
That's one word?
That was proposed and a judge denied it.
Oh,
100%.
really?
Yeah, you can't be that name.
But what we called her Serpentfoot. She had to at least.
Just
Well, she was just
Okay.
Serpentfoot for a while, and then she went to all that.
Golly bum, that one
Yeah,
right there
bless
was
her
on
heart.
something I ain't never been able to get my hands on.
This might not need to make it into the episode.
That was half the episode of me reading
I
off her
know,
name.
yeah, just wasted
No,
10
that's
minutes.
juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody in Afghanistan will be like, "Yep, America's crazy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God bless us, man. But
God bless y'all too.
yeah,
Without somebody taking a picture of it.
without right, just leave the camera. If you can't handle it, just leave the camera at home. That's the short. That's the long and the short. Just don't. Just don't.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, why? Why are you taking the picture?
Yeah. Yep.
Why
It's
are you
for me.
doing it? I mean, we're already so narcissistic. I mean, I do it too. We all take these pictures, like, look, I detailed my car today or something like that. I mean, it's just all silliness, really, looking for attention.
Well, when did we start taking selfies? You think
When they gave us a device that would do it?
Yeah, that's what we've never turned the camera around, right? We've always had cameras forever. I had a camera in my hand today that was 110 years old, and nobody ever thought to like turn it around and take a picture of themselves.
Right.
You might have had to take 2 or 3 and hope you got one right because you couldn't immediately see the
had
picture.
to get the guy under the curtain.
This one wasn't that old, but but it was like collapsed into this box and you had to pull it out, and it was old, but we didn't do it. So how did we ever survive before we could document what we ate, or like where we were at the football game or whatever?
We
would hand our camera to somebody else.
You're on the cusp of a really deep thought there.
Yeah.
Why did we turn it around?
Or why didn't we? We would give our camera to the guy behind us at the football game, and he would take a picture of us with, up in row 98 or whatever.
But if we give it to them, we can't get that right angle.
Yeah, it doesn't look as cool with the selfie stick. We developed the selfie stick. Are people still doing that? I guess they are.
I mean, somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah. A 360 stick's the thing now.
Yeah. Don't do that either. No selfies. You can't help if people see you, and you can't help if people take pictures of you, and you can't help if people saw you and say, "Hey, I saw you and I thought it was awesome." Okay, cool. Point them to Jesus at that point. If you saw it, this is why I did it. I'm going to share the gospel with you now, whether you like it or not.
There you go.
So there you go.
That's it right there, I think.
That's it. So jumping the shark. Let's bring this back. We've talked about the last 2 episodes. So Jumping the Shark was an episode of Happy Days, which was a show about the 50s.
Happy days.
And there was a cool guy on the show. His name was Fonzie.
Hey.
Who was always jumping his motorcycle and doing stunts and whatever. So they got...
Not always.
When
they started running out of stuff for the show to be interesting about, they would break out the motorcycle stunt.
Yeah,
They'd
right.
break one out like every season.
It was like Save the Season,
Yeah.
right? So they ran out of motorcycle stunts. And they said, hey, we're going to put Fonzie on water skis and pull him behind a boat, and he's going to jump over a shark in this tank or whatever.
He was wearing a leather jacket the whole time.
Leather jacket in the water.
Perfect.
And that was what people point. It was a fantastic show. I don't know how many seasons it ran, but it was great. And that was the moment that people point to as the turning point for that show where it never recovered. So now when you say something has jumped the shark, like that's the end.
That means it's time to wrap it up.
It is. So that's what we're going to do right now. Tango, you waiting to drop facts on us?
I was going to hit you with some trivia.
Let's do trivia.
But I don't have any for this one. I was looking and I can't find too much fun stuff on missions.
Okay. Yeah, it is what it is.
As of 2021, there was an estimate of how many full-time missionaries worldwide.
From America or just?
Just from Christian missionaries.
Christian missionaries, regardless of where they're from.
Across the globe.
There are, 2021, there were 1,000.
Million.
Wow, that is a vast difference between the both of you. We're actually sitting at 430,000.
Wow.
Across
so
the
almost
globe.
So you're
exactly
closer.
in the middle of where we were. 430,000. Okay.
That's not
Good.
many.
It's not many, but that's good, I guess.
When you think about America has 330 million people, it's what a 10%?
About the population of Atlanta.
Yeah,
Well, you would have to.
the entire state of Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Alabama's got more people than that. They got 1 million people.
Atlanta by itself has like 2 million people.
The metro area, but like in the city limits, it's like 500,000. But yeah, 430,000. I don't know. That's still more than I thought, but
Yeah,
It's still
and
not
that's
many.
full-time
no, it's not.
missionaries.
Right.
That's not our weekend warriors who go to Haiti.
Yeah.
I guess there's that to consider too.
Yeah, but I mean, there's 1 billion Chinese people,
Close to it.
so
You get locked
yeah.
up over there for sharing the gospel.
Yeah. Not in India. There's 1 billion Indians though.
You do in China though, don't you?
Oh yeah, they'll kill you over there. It's a whole different thing. If you're gonna go to China, take pictures of yourself before you go, so they'll recognize you. But yeah, anywho,
That went dark.
it did.
Yeah, we jumped the shark again.
We jumped the shark. God bless us.
Good night.
God bless you guys. We love you. See you next time.